Hey, everybody. You can help us make Chris DeMakes a podcast even better by telling us a little bit about yourself. Go to surveymonkey.com/r/JDZ3HL7 for a quick listener survey. It only takes a couple minutes and it helps support our team. To show our appreciation, we're giving away 2 $50 gift cards to lucky participants every single month. Head to, go ahead and grab a pen, surveymonkey.com/r/JDZ3HL7 now for your chance to win.
When you think about businesses that are selling through the roof, like Skims or Allbirds, sure, you think about a great product, a cool brand, and great marketing. But an often overlooked secret is actually the businesses behind the business, making selling and for shoppers buying simple. For millions of businesses, that business is Shopify. It's home of Shop Pay, the #1 checkout in the world. You can use it to boost conversions up to 50%, meaning way less carts going abandoned and way more sales going through to checkout. Upgrade your business and get the same checkout Allbirds uses. Sign up for your $1 per month trial period at shopify.com/income, all lowercase. Go to shopify.com/income to upgrade your selling today. Shopify.com/income.
Hey everyone, today's guest is Geoff Downes, keyboardist for the London, England rock band, Asia. Together we take a deep dive into the writing, recording, and inspiration behind the breakout smash hit single, Heat of the Moment. I wasn't sure where to begin with Geoff. He's a legendary musician who started out writing 30-second commercial jingles, to forming the Buggles, yes, the band that wrote Video Killed the Radio Star, to which Geoff has a co-write. Then shortly thereafter, he stepped into the band Yes, and recorded and toured their album Drama. And not long after that, formed the supergroup Asia, alongside John Wetton from King Crimson, Steve Howe from Yes, and Carl Palmer from Emerson, Lake and Palmer. A&R guru John Kolodner signed the band, and it was he who in the 11th hour asked the band for one more song to round out the record. That's when Geoff and lead vocalist John Wetton excused themselves and came back 20 minutes later with Heat of the Moment. And the rest is history. So for all this, and an instrument named a Kodo, don't touch that dial.
Hey, hey, have you heard? Chris DeMakes a podcast. Hey, hey, have you heard? Chris DeMakes a podcast. Hey, hey, have you heard? Chris DeMakes a podcast. Hey, hey, have you heard? Chris DeMakes a podcast.
Well, hello, Geoff. How are you today?
I'm very good, thanks. How are you?
I'm fantastic. What are you in the UK right now?
Yeah. I mean, I live in Wales, so I'm just over the border. So it's a very nice part of the country.
Fair enough. Are you near Cardiff?
Near Cardiff, yeah. Yeah, not very far.
Okay.
But, yeah.
This is a real honor to be speaking to you. One of my earliest memories of music was, 8 or 9 years old. I was really immersed in it. My parents, the listeners here know my parents were musicians. But my dad would buy 45s every week because they would learn the top 40 songs that were out. And I remember him having a real hard time with this. He was just a guitar player, how he was going to get all the keyboards in this one. And he did a pretty stripped down version, but this song was such a new sound in 1982. The keyboard texture, the way the guitars were blown out with the chorus and the effects on the guitars, it was exciting. And when I listen to this track now, it besides bringing up amazing, wonderful memories, it just holds up still, almost 45 years later. It sounds amazing.
Yeah, I mean, I still think that it's it's a good sounding record, and I think that going back to it was the very last song that we wrote for the album. It was almost an afterthought. I think we just signed with Geffen Records at the time, and we were the first band on the Geffen label. The main sort of A&R guy there is a guy called John Kolodner, who's quite famous
Sure.
A&R man. Many bands. But yeah, he said, "Oh, come on, you've got to give us one more." He heard the album when we got it to a certain point, and said, "You've got to give us one more." So I sat down with John Wetton one day, the late great John Wetton, who I had a great writing partnership with for many years.
Yes.
And we sat down at a piano, and he said, "Well, I've got this." He said, "I've got this little country song idea." It was in a funny time signature, and he said, "The chorus sort of goes like this," and he played the Heat of the Moment chorus. We didn't have any lyrics for it at the time. And I said, "Oh, I've got something that goes a bit like, it'll probably go with that." So I came up with a verse, and we literally sat down and put that whole thing together in an afternoon, and then we went in to record it. And of course, it was, in terms of the rest of the album, it was quite poppy. Sort of more so than the other tracks. The other tracks had got all the influence of, I suppose, the other bands that the guys had come from, like Yes and ELP and
King
Crimson, all of that stuff. So, there were a lot of elements of that in the other songs on the album. But I think Heat the Moment was an out-and-out rock song. And I think that by the time we recorded it, I think Geffen turned around and said, "This is the one we're going to go with. This is great." And I remember going back to the actual recording of it, and Steve, from his Yes background, wasn't too enamored with playing those opening power chords because it was a bit of anathema to Steve Howe's type of guitar playing. But I think that John and I were pretty insistent on it, and he eventually came up with it and said, "Yeah, I can play this." And so he got his little F string G Gibson out, and he did these power chords, that really kicked the whole track off.
Yeah.
And then, of course, we did the production ideas that came through. We had the idea of Carl doing this almost Phil Spector type of bass and snare drum.
Oh yeah.
But the actual verse itself is in an unusual time signature. It's actually
it's 6/4.
It's in 6/4, so that obviously why that foxed your dad, when he was trying to learn the arrangement of it.
Well, it was not just my father. I've seen cover bands butcher this song before. Okay, they're trying to do the verses in 4/4. The guitar doesn't know where the one is, and it's hilarious. And what I love about this song, yes, it was the most, if you want to say, commercially accessible song from the record. That's why the record company zeroed in on it. But, you mentioned your guys' backgrounds. You got John Wetton from King Crimson, very progressive band. Yes, at the time. Steve Howe played with Yes, and then Carl Palmer, who, of course, played in Emerson, Lake and Palmer. I can hear the progressive, what I call progressive elements of the band within this rock track, especially when we get down to the bridge, and we'll get there in a little bit. But, you guys were the first band, I think, that I ever heard called a supergroup.
Yeah, I think that was a label that they put on us. I think that it was more of a marketing tool. But I mean, we didn't actually see ourselves. We didn't see ourselves as a supergroup per se. I think that we did a lot of work together before that. I think we rehearsed for about 6 months before we went in the studio. So there was a lot of experimentation. And I think, obviously, I'd come from a slightly different background from the other three guys because I was the pop guy, I suppose you could call me, who'd come from, the Buggles, albeit having a stint in Yes beforehand.
Well, can we back up, please? It's amazing where you came from. You got your start as a session musician, and then you were composing advertising jingles. In 1976, you met Trevor Horn while auditioning for pop singer Tina Charles's backing band, and you guys formed the Buggles together. Yes, the same Buggles that did Video Killed the Radio Star. That's so cool. That's so cool.
Well, yeah, I mean, it was an amazing period for my life because obviously, Trevor and I, we were doing a lot of experimental productions. I mean, this is all the time whilst the big bands like Yes and ELP are playing the big stages in America and stuff like that. We were beavering away in the studio in London, just doing demos. A lot of it was repairing people's, they'd want to go in the studio and we'd just go in as producers and try and fix it up. And of course, that's where Trevor and myself Trevor and myself built up a great relationship because Trevor was more in the production mode and I was more in the performance mode.
Yep.
So, we'd just go in the studio and I'd go with a pile of keyboards and Trevor would go behind the desk and we'd say, look, let's try and sort this crappy old demo out, So we tried to polish these songs that were given to us. And I think that really crafted us in the studio world. And that was really the Buggles kind of came out of that. We said, well, we're doing all this repair work on these other tracks and we're playing sessions on all this other stuff. Why don't we do something ourselves? And that's when, we locked into Video Kid, the Radio Star, and then we were writing with another guy called Bruce Woolley. So that's really how it all happened. And then Trevor and myself went off and we signed to Island Records and, we had the first number one for Island Records, and we later had the first video on MTV and the last, which was closed down a few months ago.
You guys bookended MTV. That's amazing.
We did. It's a great story. But yeah, I mean, I think we had the same management as Yes, and I think that the Yes guys, there were only three of them at that time, was Steve, Chris, and Alan, and I think they were looking for, more sort of collaboration writing-wise. And we got in the studio one day with them and said, look, we've got a few songs you might be interested in. And that was really how we morphed into Yes. And, from that point onwards, that's where it led me into Asia. And
let me tell you, Geoff, I'm so excited because I could talk to you for an hour, literally, about the Buggles and for the whole Yes period, because I love the Drama album. It's amazing. I think without the Drama album, this is my opinion, that there wouldn't have been 90125.
I agree.
The next record. This had to bridge the progressive Yes from the 70s, Topographic Oceans, all that stuff. It was the bridge. Absolutely love the record. And before we jump into the track, I just want to talk about Mike Stone a little bit, the producer, because I had read that at the time you guys are maybe thinking that this sounded too album-oriented rock because of other bands he produced, Journey, Tommy Shaw, Whitesnake, Foreigner, etc. But I love this production. I think it sounds great.
Yeah, I mean, Mike was an unbelievable set of ears. I mean, he wasn't a musical producer in any way, but I mean, he'd just come off doing big Journey album, Escape, and so he was really the man of the moment, and he just had an amazing touch that he could, he was doing a vocal. He'd get the best out of everybody, and I think we had to pay a lot of respects to Mike for what he did on that first album, because if you listen to, Heat at the Moment, for instance, it's a big sound. It's a huge sound, and but it's a lot of clarity to it. I think that's one of the reasons why it still stands up today. Is that there's such a great production and such great clarity involved in the actual recordings. You can hear every guy in there. He had all this method about stacking the vocals. And so it was great working with Mike, and he was a really good good friend. And we lost Mike way too soon.
I know, it's unfortunate. Well, Asia, the album was an immediate success. Heat of the Moment. The album was released in 1981 and remained at number one on the Billboard album charts for a record 9 successive weeks. It is track 1 of 9 on the album, 3 minutes and 48 seconds. And Geoff, we're going to get into this bad boy right now. The intro is basically the verse progression. At the time, this was just a super new sound, this blown out, distorted stereo guitars, and then you get this dun-dun, this kick drum and these crash with these big keyboard pads, and this happens 2 times before we get into the verse. We mentioned the verse being in 6/4, and I typically don't get into time signatures too much here on the show. I don't like to lose people, but man, this is so cool what you guys did here, and I feel like Carl Palmer may have had something to do with this. Am I right?
No, really, I think that it was just the way that we wrote the meter, of the verse, and I think that obviously the idea of the Phil Spector boom boom boom, with the massive snare drum, huge reverb on it, because it had so much space in it. I think because it was in 6/4, it had an extra 2 beats of space per bar. So you could get away with that great big explosive snare in there, and it had all the space to reverberate. But I think, you look at some songs like, Salisbury Hill, that's in 7, Peter Gabriel. So, but to get away with a slightly odd time signature is quite unusual in pop music because, you're so used to stuff being in 4/4. I mean, obviously, when it squared out at the very end of the verse, it went into 2 bars of 4/4, and then it locked into 4/4 for the actual chorus itself.
Right.
But I mean, up until that point, it was a sort of in a void. But I think that sometimes if you don't actually notice the odd time signature, then it just seems a natural thing. And I think in the case of Heat at the moment, it was a very natural thing that it just felt right.
I've listened to this song for almost 45 years, and I didn't realize till I picked up the guitar and tried to play it. I go, okay, they're in 6 here. I didn't know.
I never meant to be so bad to you. One thing I said that I would never do. A look from you and I would fall from grace, and that would wipe the smile right from my face. Do you remember when we used to dance, and incidents arose from circumstance? One thing led to another, we were young, and we would scream together songs unsung.
I never meant to be so bad to you. One thing I said that I would never do. A look from you and I would fall from grace, and that would wipe the smile right from my face. Do you remember when we used to dance, and incidents arose from circumstance? One thing led to another, we were young, and we would scream together, songs unsung.
Yeah.
Man, I got the chills. I got the chills reading those, buddy.
Yeah, I think because it's not a love song per se. It's more of a nostalgic look about, when I think obviously John was mostly responsible for the lyrics, and I think that it was very much a kind of reflection of his early youth, So it was, as I say, it was very much a nostalgic look, but at the same time, there was a sort of hard-edged defiance to it, and I think that that was conveyed really well in the lyric. And John, when he came up with those lyrics, I thought, wow, man, you're a clever dude,
They're so good. Do you remember when we used to dance and incidents arose from a circumstance? I can only imagine what those incidents are.
Yeah. I can imagine too, but but I mean, they're not sort of giveaway, throwaway love lyrics, that there's sort of they're intelligent lyrics, and there's big words, like circumstance and incidents and all that sort of stuff. To fit all that into one verse, it's pretty clever thinking, I think, certainly on John's behalf.
I think it's awesome. And can we talk about how he sells this lead vocal, the conviction of it? My audience here on the show, they've heard me say this a million times. If I believe something, if I feel it from someone's, their conviction of the vocal, and 45 years later, I still feel this, man. It sounds so good.
It does, and I think that when we were recording the vocal, his commitment, John's commitment to deliver that lead vocal was actually quite breathtaking, because I mean, parts it goes quite high, quite almost to the top of his register.
Sure.
But, he just sort of commanded it and dealt it. And as you say, I think a lead vocalist has got to believe in what they're singing. I think that,
yeah.
And that does come across, it's the conviction that what they're singing about, they really mean it. Whether or not they do or not, I don't know. I mean, for instance, John Anderson in Yes, so a lot of the lyrics don't make any sense if you read them. But at the same time, the conviction of the vocal and the delivery is everything. And I think if you get that across, it's almost a subliminal thing that you're translating to the listener. That if you believe it, they're going to believe it.
Yeah, I wholeheartedly agree with that statement. Absolutely. Well, some really cool things here in verse 1 I mentioned before. It's a double verse here. Just those stereo guitars carry over from the intro, along with a hi-hat keeping time as the vocals are sung over them for the first half of verse 1 on the second half. And I mentioned Carl Palmer earlier. Just the groove and the swing of this song. And there are hooks. There are drum hooks in this song. You mentioned that tambourine and whatnot, that Phil Spector. But do you remember when we used to dance? Kick, 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 snare and tambo at the same time. That is awesome.
Yeah.
Let's talk about that. Was that always there, or was that something that Carl felt or the band was hearing?
I think it was more something that Carl felt, and I think he put it in. We went, yeah, that's great. That's a really good little touch, because it's just another little detail, like a little mini hook in there, And I think when we were making this particular record, we were very conscious about getting all these little hooks through, and there are a lot throughout the song, and this is just one little small element. But if you go on through the rest of the song, and you'll find, I mean, we'll talk about the mid-late section in a bit, but certainly I think you combine the lyrics with the little hooks and everything else like that, and the vocal delivery, and then of course we've not talked about the chorus yet, but when the chorus comes in, it's like a ton of bricks.
Yeah, it's incredible.
Yeah. And I think that was the thing that John and I were very conscious of. And I think if you listen to that whole of Asia's music in general throughout all the years, we were very steeped in those anthemic choruses. And this was the perfect opportunity, particularly on this song, was that you'd have the big anthem come in. Because John and myself grew up with English church music. So we used to sing anthems when we were kids, So a lot of that was inbred in us in a way that we, I think one of the reasons why we had such a great understanding as writers together was the fact that, we both saw things in a similar way.
I think it's very difficult. Most bands start out like playing two chords, like myself, and I try to get better and expand my musical vocabulary. Hey, I'm going to try this song in 6 or whatever. Yeah. You guys had to kind of go backwards here. I know how proficient each of you are on your instruments. Carl Palmer, for him to just play this dun 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 boom, and not really change it. There's restraint there. I know that has to be difficult for someone with his mind, and that kick, snare and tambo combo happens after each line here. And on the last line, we would scream together, songs unsung. We get a kick. We get an extra one last time.
That's right, just before the chorus kicks in. Yeah.
Just kills me. I know. So good.
You just got to make those decisions as you go, and we thought, yeah, go on, we'll have one last one in there just before he hits the chorus, So, yeah, I mean, little details like that, obviously, we went through them in great detail, because you just make those decisions as you go along. And I think, in those days when you didn't really have the choice of going back on it, we do a backing track and that would be it. You wouldn't be able to put it in Pro Tools and fiddle around with it and then do multiple takes and say, chuck that bit out of that.
You had to commit.
That was it. We had one 24 track that we were running at the time, and we had to cut the backing track live, and that was how we did it. So all of that stuff, maybe the tambourine was overdubbed, but I mean the actual drum part that Carl felt was actually done on a live backing track.
And the tambourine screaming at you. It's got a ton of verb on it. It has to be that loud though. It just feels too darn good. Yeah. We're in the chorus at 51 seconds. We changed to 4/4 time here. And again, the restraint of the band. You're just kind of cruising along here, letting the hook of the vocal and everything else here take over.
It was the heat of the moment, telling me what my heart meant. The heat of the moment showed in your eyes. And now you find yourself.
It was the heat of the moment, telling me what my heart meant. The heat of the moment showed in your eyes. And The other interesting thing about this song, and we're going to get there as we go through it, every chorus is different. For a pop song, that rarely happens. And that kind of harkens back to me to your progressive elements. Progressive bands are kind of, the arrangements could be all over the place. Parts aren't repeated. And I think that's brilliant in this song. We get a harmony on it, was the heat of the moment. The second line, there's nothing on it. The third line, the heat of the moment, we get these nice harmonies, and we get a held out on eyes is held out. Let's talk about this lyric. You mentioned at first you had the groove for the chorus or maybe a melody. When did do you remember the lyric coming along?
I think that John had the idea of, because it's always good to have a catchphrase for a chorus, if you can. And he came up with "Heat of the Moment," and it was interesting because it is the pickup line sometimes, but I think there's a different pickup line into one of the other choruses.
Oh, there is.
Yeah. So the difficulty was when we were working with Mike was, John had the lead line, and then we thought, well, let's put our anthemic choruses on. So we actually had a 4-part harmony on the chorus. Steve took the lower one, John took the 2 middle ones, and I took the top one. So
wow.
when we come in with the chorus, "Heat of the Moment" is actually it's a 4-part basically.
Is John's lead vocal doubled too in the choruses?
Yeah, it's double tracked. Yeah, because Mike had this technique of it's actually what he'd do was he'd record a single voice, and then he'd send out to each side of the stereo another voice, so that you'd have the actual lead in the middle, but you'd have these 2 ghosty voices either side in the stereo. Everything was triple tracked. My harmony was triple tracked. Steve's was triple tracked. Both of John's.
Why it sounds so massive and full.
Yeah. So both of John's. So you're always talking about 12 voices on the "Heat of the Moment" block. The chord changes each time. So it's "Heat of the Moment." That's going down that way. "Heat of the moment," and that changes again. So it goes to the minor at that point. So
yeah,
you imagine that when we actually sung every single chorus, because as you know, the tempo changes all the way through. So
yes.
each chorus is different. So we had to actually lay all those vocals on every single chorus, which, was no mean feat. But as I say, we did everyone was triple tracked. That was Mike's technique. I think that's what he did with Journey. So he said, no, come on, you've got to triple track it, make it sound big, because he reckoned that by the time you'd done the third one on, it actually smoothed out any discrepancies in the first two harmony parts you've done. So that was that's down to his technique, and something that we adopted throughout the rest of the album.
I love that. Well, chorus 1, we got the drums in here, just playing the 4/4 groove, kind of on a closed hi-hat. Bass guitar. I'm hearing acoustic guitar in here as well, and the keys are playing an arpeggiated figure that keeps things peppy here. On the eyes that held out, on the back half of this harmony, we get rakes from a stereo acoustic guitar. Ring.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's a device that John and I used a lot, is the suspended fourth. So they had the suspended eyes that sort of resolves within that, in the whole chord. So as I say, that was a device that John and I think was borrowed from that church music. A lot of that music had those kind of suspended fourth chords resolving down to the major third. So yeah, I mean, it was we were throwing all our devices into the whole thing, and I think that, but trying to keep it all as condensed as possible, because if I go back to the other guys, they'd come from these bands that have been playing 20-minute epics,
Yes.
And I think that one of the reasons why they embraced me coming into the band was because I'd not really come from that school. I come from a much tighter school. I was writing jingles that were exactly 28 and a half seconds long, where you had to get you had to get your idea across like that, from day one. So I think that there was a certain application with particularly with Heat of the Moment that, as you say, it's 3:48 long or whatever, is to try and get all of these things across as quickly as possible without actually, falling foul of thinking, oh, well, maybe we should extend this bit and have a bit going ahead. But, I don't think we lost our credibility, or they lost their credibility of being progressive rock musicians, because I think there were still certain elements, the craft of creating something that was, different.
Geoff, I couldn't believe what was under the hood here when I started combing through it. I've heard this song how many times until I really put eyes on it. It's like, wow. Yeah, it's a pop song by design, but if you look behind the scenes, there's a lot going on here.
Sure as the sun will cross the sky, this lie is over.
Hey everybody, don't go anywhere. We got lots more coming up with Geoff Downes after a few words from our sponsors.
Hey everybody, Chris DeMakes here. Whether I'm out on the road with Less Than Jake or at home with my family, I don't have time to be constantly thinking about what I'm going to wear. I want to be comfortable, but I also want to look put together and stylish. That's why I'm thankful for Quince. Their fabrics feel elevated, the fits are clean, and everything works without needing to overthink it. Quince has all the wardrobe staples for spring. Clean, 100% Pima cotton tees that look as good as they feel. Same deal with the pants. They're relaxed and comfortable, but still polished enough to wear anywhere. Best part is, they're priced 50 to 80% less than what you'd find at similar brands, because Quince works directly with ethical factories and cuts out the middleman. So you're getting premium materials without the markup. I recently got a pair of jeans from Quince, and they're the most comfortable pair of pants I've ever worn. Refresh your everyday with luxury you'll actually use. Head to quince.com/DeMakes for free shipping on your order and 365-day returns. Now available in Canada too. That's QUINCE.com/DeMakes for free shipping and 365-day returns. Quince.com/DeMakes. Looking to elevate your music career? DistroKid is a digital music distribution service that enables musicians to distribute their music to online stores and streaming platforms such as Spotify, Apple Music, YouTube Music, Amazon, Tidal, and many more. DistroKid collects earnings and payments, sending them to you, the artist. With DistroKid, artists unlock a world of possibilities. From easily paying collaborators with splits to securing your music with DistroLock, DistroKid covers all bases. Plus, you can promote your releases with Hyperfollow and create eye-catching visuals with a Spotify Canvas generator, all for free. But that's not all. Introducing the DistroKid app, now available on iOS and Android. Artists can manage their releases, view streaming stats, and withdraw earnings, all from the palm of their hand. And for those looking to perfect their sound, check out Mixia. With its simple interface and customizable mastering options, artists can make their music sound polished and professional within minutes. And don't forget about Instant Share, DistroKid's newest feature. Share large files securely with collaborators, producers, and more, ensuring your music streams at the highest quality. Ready to take your music to the next level? Download the DistroKid app and explore their suite of tools today. Plus, listeners can enjoy 30% off their first year by visiting distrokid.com/VIP/DeMakes. That's distrokid.com/VIP/DeMakes.
Expedia and Visit Scotland invite you to come experience the beauty that awaits in Scotland. The sweep of wild coastlines, quiet lochs, and untamed landscapes. Fresh cuisine that feels rooted in the land. Come experience the kind of stillness that stays with you long after you leave. Plan your Scottish escape today at expedia.com/Visit Scotland.
Pool days call for cookouts and lots of laundry. This Memorial Day at Lowe's, save $80 on a Charbroil Performance Series 4-burner gas grill. Now just $199. Plus, get up to 45% off select major appliances to keep dishes, clothes, and food fresh. Having fun in the sun is easy with us in your corner. Our best lineup is here at Lowe's. Valid through 5/27. While supplies last. Selection varies by location. See associate or Lowe's.com for details.
You thought this was your Run Club era. Turns out, it was more of a thinking about Run Club era. The good news? Someone's marathon training is about to start. Sell your workout gear on Depop. Just snap a few photos, and we'll take care of the rest. They get their race day fit, and you get a payout for trying. Someone on Depop wants what you've got. Start selling now. Depop, where taste recognizes taste.
Where is Daredevil? I'm right here. Don't miss the return of Marvel Television's Daredevil Born Again.
So what's next?
I feel liberated.
We're gonna take this city back.
Over medicated.
In an all-new season, now streaming only on Disney+.
They're hunting us. It's time we started hunting them.
I can work with that.
This should be tons of fun.
Marvel Television's Daredevil Born Again, now streaming only on Disney+.
Hey friends, Chris DeMakes here. If you love Chris DeMakes a podcast and you'd like to help us continue bringing you great episodes each week, please take a minute to check out chrisdemakes.com. That's where you'll find our Patreon. Our Patreon supporters get instant access to hundreds of episodes of The After Party, our weekly bonus episode that people have raved to us about for years. You can also get ad-free, early releases of each week's episode of Chris DeMakes a podcast, as well as unedited video versions of the show. Even if you're not sure if you want to sign up, you can go to chrisdemakes.com and sign up for a free account. We'll throw you a free preview episode here and there. We can't thank you enough for all the support. And if you have a few extra bucks and you want to help us keep the lights on, our Patreon is the way to do it. Head to chrisdemakes.com to learn more.
And now, back to the show.
Chorus 1 goes right back to verse 2. We jump back to the 6/4 time signature. I love this lyric. I loved it then, and I love it even more now.
And now you find yourself in 82. The disco hotspot's holding the charm for you. You can concern yourself with bigger things. You catch a pearl and ride the dragon's wings. 'Cause it's a heat.
And now you find yourself in 82. The disco hotspots hold no charm for you. You can concern yourself with bigger things. You catch a pearl and ride the dragon's wings. Now, I'm not sure what's going on there in the back half. I guess it's just like seize the moment, seize the day. But the first couple lyrics, and now you find yourself in 82, the disco hotspots hold no charm for you. Is that John getting older? He's out looking around going, man.
Yeah, I think that's it's sort of moving on, from the first verse, and I think he's saying, well, that was then, but now, we're not disco buddies anymore. We're getting we're a bit more serious. Or you're getting older and you're not going to be hanging out at the discos anymore. And I think that it's a little bit of a tongue-in-cheek dig, but of course, as the lyric progresses, and we get to the riding the pearl.
You catch a pearl and ride the dragon's wings.
That obviously, whether or not that inspired Roger Dean's artwork for the sleeve, or whether it was the other way around, I couldn't tell you. But
gotcha. Okay.
But obviously, there is a connection there because the sleeve of the Azure album is the serpent with hanging a pearl.
Yep.
So
yeah.
So I think maybe it was post Roger's initial artwork, and that inspired John to throw that into the lyric. Yeah.
That makes so much sense now. Okay. Well, verse 2 is half as long as verse 1. Same overall instrumentation and placement as verse 1, but we're joined here by piano playing an awesome and chipper arpeggiated figure. It really keeps things moving here. Was that always there, or were you tinkering around and you threw it in, or how'd that happen?
I think that we wanted to have something different that happened in the second verse. So, I mean, it was, I think that's a bit of a trick generally with production, is that, when you come back and you lay the second verse in, something's got to change. There's got to be some development of some description. And I think that's what made me think, well, I'll just do this arpeggiated part, which actually dictates the chords as much as anything else, as the movement. So it kind of enhances, Steve's still got those power chords going, but at the same time, you're not hearing the actual, the actual chord itself specifically. You're just hearing the kind of the power. And so I think that added to the tonality of it. It added to the whole, you realized it was it was a major going to a minor to and a major, and that kind of movement, which was obviously dictated by the arpeggios. And in fact, it's got an echoey sound to it. It's actually a Fairlight digital piano. It's not.
It was a Fairlight. Okay.
Yeah, it's not a real piano. Because I was using Fairlight a lot at that point, and I used a lot of Fairlight on the Azure album. So.
Well, imagine a guy like you, Don Airy, all those guys from the great keyboards, Ken Hensley. Once the Fairlight came out, you guys were probably locked in a room for a year. You didn't come out, right?
Yeah, I just loved it. In fact, I got one of the first Fairlights ever and I used it on the Drama album. So, I'll go back 2 years previously to that. So it was very much a thing that I was very into keyboard technology anyway, but certainly that was a real breakthrough. It was a digital mellotron, really, the first real sampler that you could actually play. So, so I love this sort of very kind of 8-bit kind of brittle piano sound. It was almost better than it being a tangible piano because it had a different kind of frequency to it,
I agree. I agree.
So that really seemed to fit in well with the way the track was developing. And that was really the only major development in the second verse, I think.
And I think that's perfect because as the song builds, to me, nothing had needed to come in more than just that piano. It's absolutely perfect. The other thing I noticed about this track, and I think this had to be intentional because it makes the choruses sound so much bigger. There's no harmonies in the verses.
No,
you just wait, and now all of a sudden you got those 12 voices, and it's just massive on the chorus.
Yeah, exactly. That was the whole thing that we wanted to achieve. I think was that sort of the shock factor. The fact that if you've not got too many voices in the verses, then when you come in with the big fat anthemic chorus, it's even more awe-inspiring. And it really gives you that great feeling of wow. Suddenly it's taken off.
Right. Well, right out of verse 2, we're back in 4/4 time in chorus 2. But here the lyric changes, okay? When you're going for a pop song, did anybody from Geffen, did Mike Stone in particular, I think he'd be the only one, say, guys, we're going for a chorus people want to remember here, and every chorus is different. That's kind of risky in pop music. Tell me about that a little bit.
Yeah, well, I think that, John was telling a story, so I think that he didn't want to, he wanted it to develop, the story was developing. So I think that the changes in the lyric, although very subtle, it didn't affect the harmonic blocks at all because we were working on, we worked on those separately. But I think the idea of, just these slight changes in the lyric kept the interest factor up more than anything else. It was just like, these guys are not just rolling over and they're cementing the exact same chorus in every time. And also the tempo was going to be slightly different because we didn't play this to a click or anything like that. This was we just played it as we felt, and so I think that comes across as well. That
sure
it's a development piece. It's not just you're not just sort of putting a section A, section B, copy and paste. Yeah. And so I think that's one of the reasons why the lyric benefits from those subtle changes.
That's great. I completely agree with you. Looking at it from how these record label guys, especially back then, thought, and producers, they would want to play it safe, and I think that's really cool. This lyric's different. And here's chorus 2.
'Cause it's the heat of the moment, the heat of the moment, the heat of the moment, showed in your eyes.
Because it's the heat of the moment. The heat of the moment. The heat of the moment showed in your eyes. Same overall instrumentation as chorus 1, but we get the different lyrics as we mentioned, and we get a lead guitar crying away on those full band hits before we get in to the middle 8, the bridge. Now, 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 now. So cool. I feel like those guitars are whining. They're crying. kind of. That's the feeling. Like they're tugging at my heartstrings, like feelings of yore, looking in the past.
I think that was something that John and I worked on, this development away in them, rather than it, just finishing the chorus as we had done the first one. This was an extension, this was almost like a B section of the chorus, if you like, moving this.
Yes.
We had the suspension, but then it starts to resolve, but the bass starts to descend.
Yes.
So we have the how we have the suspension before, but it resolves, but the bass starts to descend. So you have this real thing where you've got these suspensions going down until it bumps into the middle eight. So I mean, it begged the tune that Steve's playing there is also in quite a lot of the vocal aspects as well. So we had the eyes suddenly had this more than 4 blocks. I think that John put some extra stuff that was sweeping around.
There's the ahs in there too. Yeah.
So that sort of thing, it was a great sort of moment because it was just sort of cascading into the middle eight. It was just
it's so good. And if there's any point in this song, Geoff, that I would be like, okay, I'm listening to a band that has progressive leanings. It's this part, it just gives me that vibe and that feeling. It's a 16-bar musical bridge. The stereo guitars have this that come in from the chorus. This part, as I just mentioned, has a very progressive feel. The drums are playing on the hi-hat with sporadic kick drums. We get a new main synth sound and another one that almost sounds like tubular bells. Those ones flying around there.
Yeah.
Bass guitar sounds great here, and there seems to be a low-end bed synth running underneath here with a nice growl.
Yeah, there's a lot of stuff going on. I mean, there's a Taurus pedal, which has got that extra bottom end to it.
Okay.
And it's all suspended around one root note, and that's when I think Carl came up, underneath the pedal. Yeah.
Yep.
And of course, there's the textures of Fairlight voices and Mellotron voices in there as well, which are playing the chords. That's holding the whole texture there. But then, of course, there's the melody comes in that Steve and I play, which is a do-do-do-do-do-do. Steve plays that on a koto, an actual Japanese koto.
That's what that is. Okay. I thought it was another guitar with some kind of crazy pedal or something on it.
And he got this koto out and everyone's going, what the hell's that?
Oh man, that is such a wicked sound.
And I said, how the hell are you going to play that thing? Because I mean, it's just the weirdest thing ever. And so he's plucking and going down, 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 down. And it's the weirdest sound ever. So, I mean, when he brought this koto out, beautiful looking instrument, but it's all nice chamfered wood and everything like that. And so he said, no, I want to play it on a koto. So he brought his koto out and I said, well, I'll double that sound. So I got my string ensemble out and I played a high Selena line with that. So that's really the thing. And then I got my Fairlight out again and I got a xylophone.
That's okay. I said tubular bell, xylophone.
Yeah, I got a xylophone sample out, put a delay on it, go diddle 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 diddle, and that was sort of swimming around the stereo. So all of this stuff was all happening simultaneously, and still you had the pump underneath from Carl and John holding the bass and bass drum together, boom, boom, all that stuff, da 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 da, boom, boom. So all these elements were all happening all together.
You guys were pioneers, though, because especially your keyboard work on this track, because I was hearing these sounds in dance tracks for years after this production came out. I'm serious. It was, I know, I'm sure you know that. It was really, really influential. On bar 15 and 16 here, the drums come back in. Big hits on the tambourine here. Big reverb on that. Big distortion guitar ring out on the first half, moving to eighth note palm mutes for the second half on bar 16. And then those snare hits are here with a row from the stereo guitars that take us into verse 3.
And when your looks are gone and you're alone, how many nights you sit beside the phone? What were the things you wanted for yourself? Teenage ambitions you'll remember well. It was the heat.
And when your looks have gone and you're alone, how many nights you sit beside the phone? What were the things you wanted for yourself? Teenage ambitions you remember well. That line, and when your looks have gone and you're alone. Man, that hits hard, Geoff.
I know, it's tough. It was tough on the old girl, whoever he was thinking of for that lyric, it was like, screw you, When you're alone, your looks have gone. I know, it's a cruel thing, but...
It is, but man, and I never really thought about that lyric. Maybe it's because I'm an older man now, but man, that hits.
It hits, doesn't it? Yeah. I know.
Let's talk about that third verse. Was there any discussion? Did John want the story to continue, or were you ever thinking of maybe bringing back some lines from the first or second verse? Sometimes we'll do that in songwriting.
No, I think he just thought that we'll just wrap this up now. And it's a sort of anti-love song, really, in a way. So yeah, I mean, I think he just thought, no, we'll wrap this up now, how many nights you sit beside the phone. I suppose he had this idea of, this old girl, having gone past it, she's waiting for the phone to ring and it doesn't ring,
All right. Well, the last line, you remember well, the stereo guitar eighth notes come back in there, palm mutes, to launch into chorus 3. We get a nice little drum fill that takes us in here. And here's chorus 3.
It was the heat of the moment, telling you what your heart meant. The heat of the moment, showed in your eyes. It was the heat of the moment, heat of the moment, heat of the moment, showed in your
It was the heat of the moment, telling you what your heart meant. The heat of the moment showed in your eyes. Now, this first half here, the lyric changes from telling me what my heart meant to telling you what your heart meant.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
So he spun it in reverse, which I think is which is a pretty clever thing to do, because again, as you said, this is not a cut and paste chorus, even though it has the chorus, the same sort of vocal block, but it's all these pickup lines are different. I think John was just trying to twist the meaning of it somewhat. And this sort of applies. It applies almost to, he's one time he's addressing her, and then she's addressing him in a way. It's kind of weird. It's a reverse kind of thing.
I think it's absolutely brilliant. We get harmonies on It Was the Heat of the Moment, and the second, The Heat of the Moment. It only took me 44 years to realize. I'm going through this song yesterday, and I'm like, why does this third chorus feel so different to me? What is it? What did they change? Carl goes to the bell here on the ride.
Yeah,
it's almost
right,
got a Stuart Copeland kind of rushy feel to it that kind of gives an urgency to this chorus.
Yeah, but he was getting
awesome.
really excited towards the end. And you notice the tempo starts to speed up as well. Because
you can feel that, Geoff.
Yeah, he's getting really excited on that, and that's why he goes to the bell. And I think that he's sort of driving it on, and of course by that time we've established it's just heat of the moment. It's not there's not the answering lines anymore. Heat
Right.
of the moment, heat of the moment, heat of the moment. That's when he's actually delivering, or when we're delivering, the payoff without all the pickup lines.
You're in the next part. Yeah, that was coming up. You get this guitar lead and this big drum fill for 2 bars that takes us into what you were just talking about. It was the heat of the moment, the heat of the moment, the heat of the moment showed in your eyes. And we get a new guitar lick here following the keys. It's that arpeggio you were talking about. And I believe that was played on that, was it called a koto?
Yeah, that's exactly right. And the thing was that the chord progression at the end of this second chorus here is the same as the one coming out of into the middle 8th, but it's not fully resolved. It sort of goes almost all the way, but it doesn't resolve in the same way it does in the middle 8th, because it stops and then we have that spiky little riff. Da-do-do-da-do-do.
Yes. Well, and then when we get to the end here of the refrain of Heat of the Moment, showed in your eyes, we get that big harmony again, and then we get a big 4-bar buildup with a guitar lick and these big ah vocals that take us in to what I'm calling the outro. And this part, it's just so, you mentioned Phil Spector. It has that 50s, 60s old rock and roll feeling. Yeah. This part kind of is like the black sheep of the song. It almost doesn't fit, but it fits brilliantly. Let's talk a little bit about this before I get into the nuances. This part is so unique.
Yeah, I mean, this is where I was obviously leading into Steve's guitar solo.
Yes, yeah.
And that's, I mean, by this time, if you check the tempo at the front of the song and the tempo that it's going at now, it's moved up some gears. Because it's getting faster, which is, I mean, nowadays you wouldn't even think about that. People just say, "Oh, right, we're locking the tempo," and and
that would look at as being sloppy or something. Yeah,
yeah. But in the case of this, it was a performance. We performed this backing track. It wasn't something that we assembled. It was the way that we felt it, and I think that
you performed it, you didn't create it. There's a difference.
Exactly. And I think that Carl particularly was, very, very animated and, got very excited. And so we just all went with it. But of course, it keeps the excitement value going because it's like a big sort of crescendo of stuff, going on. And, I think that, the drums get very, very busy, particularly. I think Carl, and then he breaks into his diddle-up pattern, which was definitely all him. That was his idea.
Oh, yeah. Well, it's so great. Those big harmony vocals coming out of the showed in your eyes. Yeah. We get this nice fuzzy sounding guitar lick by itself for 1 bar into a huge tambourine hit and a guitar solo for 16 bars. The snare is playing a very 50s, 60s-esque rock beat on bar 17. The vocals come in and start to fade. Tons of reverb on this snare here, which it just gives that again that old Motowny rock and roll vibe. And then we get 5 heat of the moments with those stacked harmonies as the track fades out. Geoff, can you take us back to 1981, 82? You're hearing the first mix back of this. What'd you think?
I think when we knew we'd done when we finished the first album, I think we knew it was pretty good, and I think that we felt very strongly that this was the single. And funny enough, Steve wasn't that convinced. He wasn't that convinced that this was the right direction that we should be going in, because I think he'd still got one foot in the yes camp,
Right.
But I think that on the whole, the rest of the guys really felt that, we wanted to take a new direction. I think they wanted to. The 80s. I think you mentioned earlier about how drama really paved the way for the 90125 album. And,
yes.
And I think that if you think about Asia, we were in the middle of those two albums.
You were.
And so I think that we'd kind of moved into, we were pioneers in the fact that we were moving into the 80s. We weren't relying on these guys weren't relying on their 70s pedigree. And I think they wanted to do something different. And that applied to Steve, John, and Carl. And I think, in my respect, I was something of a catalyst in there because, as I said before, I come from a slightly different direction from those guys. And I think Heat the Moment was really the one that really captured everyone's imagination, that it was like a mini epic, it had progressive elements. I mean, if you listen to Steve's solo, Steve's solo is not a conventional guitar solo. It's a real wacky, it's wacky and wild, and it's stuff that I remember people saying, God, I'd never have played that solo over it. I said, well, that's Steve. He's an original. He did something really original on that solo.
Oh, that's great.
And it made the record. I mean, I know that when people play it now, they tend to fade it out over the, a bit quicker than normal. But I think coming back in with our choruses at the end really, really, it made it kind of finished it all off. It made it relevant. And of course, the good old days when records faded out, which doesn't seem to happen much these days, but certainly that was the way that we did it. And I'm very proud. I'm very proud of of what we did with that song, because I think that, it was something that John and I, as I say, we put together very, very much at the last minute. And, and it helped, I think it helped Asia establish itself as a major band in 1982.
Absolutely, and you should be proud. This song is I'll never tire of listening to it, and I want to thank you from the bottom of my heart for being here.
Thanks, Chris. One other thing I'd like to say, Chris, on it is that it's a guitarist nightmare because it's in a very odd key. It's in D flat.
Right.
And that foxed a lot of people, which is why when Steve did the power chords, he did them on an tuned F guitar.
Okay, you said that earlier. I was trying to figure out what you were getting at. Now I understand.
So he did it on a small scale Gibson. So it sounds like it's a great massive guitar sound, but actually it's all done on a smaller scale Gibson, which is tuned to an F. So it made him a lot easier to play the songs in a relative key. So D flat's a nightmare key for not quite as bad as E flat, but D flat's a pretty nightmare key for a guitarist.
Yeah, you're not playing much open strings with that, but
no, exactly.
Listen, thank you. I was from the bottom of my heart for being here. This song is just a song from my youth. It brings back just amazing memories. I'll always love it. And before we break, Geoff, what's going on with you? You're still playing with Yes, man. You can't get enough.
Yeah, still playing with Yes. Still, we formed Asia a little while ago, and so we're going out with that as well. So I'm sort of on the road most of the time these days, but I've got other projects that I'm doing as well. But I just keep busy. I love the music. I love the music. I love playing with Yes. It's a great, fantastic band to play with, and it's great to replay all the old Asia stuff as well. So I'm kind of lucky in that respect that I've still got things that are keeping me busy.
I love it. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Chris.
Hey, everybody, I hope you enjoyed that episode. It was an honor to have Geoff on the show, and I can't wait to talk to Chris about it in the rap segment that's coming up right after a few words from our sponsors, so don't go anywhere.
Tomorrow morning is knocking. Stock your fridge now. How about a creamy mocha frappuccino drink? Or a sweet vanilla? Smooth caramel, maybe? Or a white chocolate mocha? Whichever you choose, delicious coffee awaits. Find Starbucks Frappuccino drinks wherever you buy your groceries.
Experience a membership that backs what you're building. with American Express Business Platinum. Get 2 times membership rewards points per dollar on eligible purchases in key business categories, as well as on each eligible purchase of $5,000 or more, on up to $2 million in eligible purchases per calendar year. American Express Business Platinum. There's nothing like it. Terms apply. Learn more at americanexpress.com/business-platinum.
This NBA playoffs with FanDuel, you're not just watching the playoffs, you're a part of them.
And we're back. Steve's got the phone, opens FanDuel, locks in player points, quick fingers, you love to see it. Now he's going for threes. Big night for Steve-O.
Be a part of the action and get better payouts this NBA playoffs on FanDuel. 21 plus and present in select states. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER or 1-800-MY-RESET.
Chronic migraine, 15 or more headache days a month, each lasting 4 hours or more, can make me feel like a spectator in my own life.
Botox, onabotulinum toxin A, prevents headaches in adults with chronic migraine. It's not for those with 14 or fewer headache days a month. It's the #1 prescribed branded chronic migraine preventive treatment.
Prescription Botox is injected by your doctor. Effects of Botox may spread hours to weeks after injection, causing serious symptoms. Alert your doctor right away, as difficulty swallowing, speaking, breathing, eye problems, or muscle weakness can be signs of a life-threatening condition. Patients with these conditions before injection are at highest risk. Side effects may include allergic reactions, neck and injection site pain, fatigue, and headache. Allergic reactions can include rash, welts, asthma symptoms, and dizziness. Don't receive Botox if there's a skin infection. Tell your doctor your medical history, muscle or nerve conditions, including ALS, Lou Gehrig's disease, myasthenia gravis, or Lambert-Eaton syndrome, and medications, including botulinum toxins, as these may increase the risk of serious side effects.
Why wait? Ask your doctor, visit BotoxChronicMigraine.com, or call 1-800-44-BOTOX to learn more.
Did you know if your windows are bare, indoor temperatures can go up 20 degrees? Turn the temperature down with Blinds.com and get up to 50% off custom window treatments like solar roller shades and more during the Memorial Day mega sale. Whether you want to DIY it or have a pro handle everything, we've got you. Free samples, real design experts, and zero pressure. Just help when you need it. Shop up to 50% off site-wide and huge savings on doorbusters right now during the Memorial Day mega sale at Blinds.com. Rules and restrictions apply.
There's a new way to Sweet Green. Meet Wraps. Handheld, hearty, and made for life on the move. With bold, chef-crafted flavors, fresh ingredients, and over 40 grams of protein, they're built to satisfy without slowing you down. Try Wraps today in the app or at order.sweetgreen.com. Available at all participating locations.
Do you like music, learning about good music, and laughing at bad music? Well, I have the show for you. I'm Chris DeMakes, podcast producer Chris Fafalius, and my One Hit Thunder co-host Matt Kelly and I are 300-plus episodes deep into revisiting one-hit wonders to decide if they deserve a second listen or should stay safely buried in your memory. We give every artist a fair shot, roast them when necessary, and when a band or artist is actually really good, we officially certify them Thunder. And maybe someday we'll even get around to sending out those notarized certificates. Basically, it's an incredibly fun music podcast, so smash that subscribe button on One Hit Thunder wherever you get your pods.
As we near the end of the show, here's a band you might not know.
Welcome to this week's Band You Might Not Know. If you'd like your band to be considered for Chris DeMakes a Podcast, email your best song via MP3 only and a short bio to bandyoumightnotknow@gmail.com. This week's featured artist is Robecci, an independent power pop power trio from Warsaw, Poland, who write Beatles-infused songs with distorted guitars and vocal harmonies. They sing in Polish, and they rock. Here's a snippet of their song, Do Te Pori.
The Wrap with Chris and Chris.
Chris, that was an absolutely incredible episode. And once again, we hear the story the song was an afterthought. It was the last song written. John Kolodner said to him, you got to give us one more. And what they give him is this massive song.
Yeah. And, you know, I kind of mentioned to Geoff, Chris, that I could have talked to him for an hour on just the Buggles and Yes alone.
Yeah.
We didn't really get into that, but this guy had a hand in writing Video Killed the Radio Star. And it's so cool to hear his story of how he came. He's like, yeah, I was kind of the odd man out in this group. I was the nerdy pop guy. You know, these guys are progressive, like, let's write 20-minute songs. And I don't know how familiar you are with King Crimson or the early Yes stuff, but it's out there, man.
Yeah, it's funny how he talked about how he came into this group of guys, and he is someone that had worked in the world of writing jingles, 28 and a half
seconds.
28 and a half second long jingles where you had to get the whole point across. So he's teaming up with guys who are writing like 20-minute long epic songs. So he's bringing in this whole other element. And I thought it was really cool to hear him talk about, you have all these progressive musicians, mega proficient and inventive, but they had to show restraint on this song to make it accessible to the average normie listener out there. And that paid off on this song.
It did, and I didn't realize what I call progressive elements, you know, going into different time signatures and things like that till I really started looking at the song. I didn't realize that it changed time signatures. And, you know, what's going on here? Yeah, for Geoff coming in, it's like, 3 minutes and 48 seconds. That's way longer than 28 and a half seconds. And for these other guys, they had to pull back a lot. Carl Palmer's Restraint. I mean, listen to the stuff he does in Emerson, Lake and Palmer. The guy's just an aficionado. He's a master at his instrument, and here he is going dun 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 snare, you know, and keeping it right for the part.
Yeah, and also when it comes to the drums, you're talking about a song that has tempo changes, and Geoff said it. You don't hear that a lot in contemporary pop music. You lock into a tempo and stay there, but it just adds to the feel of the song, you know, and it could come off sloppy, Chris, and if it's not the right band. But these guys are such amazing musicians that no, it's not going to be sloppy. It's going to be executed. The tempo changes are going to be executed perfectly here.
Yeah, and Geoff said something I never really thought about in this context, and I kind of finished the thought for him. You know, he said this was a performance. I'm like, yeah, you weren't creating a song. You were performing a song, and it was captured by microphones and recording equipment.
Right, absolutely. And he also brought up the fact that this song, Heat of the Moment, he's like, we built the song around a catchphrase, he called it. And I'm like, yeah, of course, 8 days a week. That's the impression that I get. All these things that are like sayings, you know, whether they're a clever saying or something, a cliche or something you hear all the time, and then you turn it into a song. Yeah, I mean, that's been around since the dawn of songs, you know?
Well, and let's remember, these guys were in their early to mid 30s. Okay, you were looked at as a dinosaur back then. You know, they get all these pop stars, so it makes sense that some of the lyrics are very tongue in cheek. You know, and when your looks have gone and you're alone, you know, it's like some 34-year-old sitting in his apartment going, "Oh man, the good old days are over." But that reflection, you know, we've talked about this a lot, Chris. There's questions being asked in this song. You know, do you remember when we used to dance?
Yeah.
You know, that reflection, that yearning of yesterday.
I think it's so cool that in the lyrics, they reference the fact that it's 1982 and they're already looking back on the disco era. And
yes,
that is so cool. Such a marker of time that I would argue it does date the song. It literally dates the song, but it also, in a strange way, does the opposite. I can relate. It's 2026 right now to be like looking back at 2020 or something, or looking back at any period of time and how you've come along. I just think that's such a cool lyric is what I'm getting at here.
It is. And at the time, I'll tell you how it made this almost 10-year-old boy feel. It made me feel like this was new. It was a new era. The keyboard sounded new.
Right.
It's 82. It's not the disco. It's not the past. And at the time, that was really cool. And now that, you know, almost 45 years have elapsed, I think the lyrics are even cooler now.
Yeah, it's so cool. Yeah, that is true, man. Stuff was moving so fast from the late 70s to the early 80s. There's such a distinctive change in the way that music sounded that you don't get as much now, I don't think. These like dramatic changes. End of the 80s to the beginning of the 90s, you had these huge waves of changes in the way things sounded, and it's cool that that's very much a lyrical marker of that. And one more thing I think is cool in this episode, Chris, is that you talked a little bit about the Fairlight, which, you know, I hear referenced in, you know, Peter Gabriel or Kate Bush talk about the Fairlight, but there weren't even a lot of these out there. I think I read that there were just like maybe 100 of them existed. And the fact that Geoff had one and was incorporating that into the music of Asia was so cool.
Oh yeah, I kind of joked with it, Geoff, a little bit, but you know, I named off some popular keyboardists from the 70s. Like when these guys got the Fairlight, man, they weren't. And I can't go out tonight. Well, I got the Fairlight. No, I can't go out tonight. Their friends wanted to hang out with them because this was a revolutionary piece of gear.
Yeah.
Okay, you could emulate and essentially it was a sampler, you know, and it would just completely change the game.
So cool, man. Such a good episode, and it really makes me want to... I didn't want to bother him right now about this, but I definitely want to reach back out and be like, do you want to come on and talk about Video Killed the Radio Star? We even went back and forth at first. We were like, Heat of the Moment or Video Killed the Radio Star. And that is such an iconic song. Like you guys talked about, not only was it the first video on MTV, it was also just recently the last ever video on MTV.
Absolutely. Well, before we get to those 5-star Spotify and Apple Music reviews, head over to ChrisDeMakes.com. That's where our Patreon's at, and you can help us keep the lights on here at Chris DeMakes a Podcast for the price of a cup of coffee a month. ChrisDeMakes.com. You get episodes of The After Party, Defeat DeMakes, and all kinds of other goodies. Chris, you got a review for us this week.
I do have a review for us, Chris, and this one is a 5-star review from Midwest Mike Wazowski. Do you know who Mike Wazowski is?
Mike Wazowski? I do not.
I'm pretty sure I'm right about this. I think it's the little green one-eyed guy from the Pixar movie Monsters Incorporated.
Okay.
Which, I don't know. If I'm wrong, then sorry, Mike Wazowski, but I think that's who Mike Wazowski is.
And no, you're not wrong. We're going to say this is the exact person.
Okay. So 5 stars from Midwest Mike Wazowski, whose title was Like Fine Wine, This Podcast Gets Better Over Time. And he said, I love the passion and fascination Chris and Chris have for music when it comes to breaking down songs of all different genres with each episode. I dig the relaxed fun when it comes to getting interesting tidbits from guests and how their appreciation for songs can change or evolve over time. Plus, I discover the occasional new artist here too. Keep rocking. I'll keep listening. Cheers.
Nice. Well, thank you. But what was the last name again?
Wazowski.
Thank you for your review. Thanks for hitting ChrisDeMakes.com for our Patreon and helping us out here on the show. We appreciate it. Thanks for listening. And I want to thank this week's guest, Mr. Geoff Downes, for sitting in the hot seat. And we'll catch you next week.
In 2021, the wife and son of Alex Murdaugh, an attorney from a prominent South Carolina family, were found shot to death. The story captivated the nation. That's when we began the podcast Impact of Influence. In March of 2023, Alec Murdaugh was convicted of murdering his wife Maggie and their 22-year-old son Paul. The latest, Alec Murdaugh was granted a new trial by the South Carolina Supreme Court citing jury tampering. The case will be tried before the end of the year, and we will be on top of it. Get Impact of Influence wherever you get your favorite podcast.